In February 2009, a woman walking her dog in Albuquerque, New Mexico, saw something unusual sticking out of the ground in the West Mesa. It was a human bone. When police started digging, they found something far worse. The remains of 11 women and one unborn baby were buried in shallow graves across the desert. All the victims had disappeared between 2003 and 2005. Most were young women involved in drugs or sex work. One victim, 15-year-old Jamie Barella, didn't have that background. She had gone missing with her cousin, Evelyn Salazar, who was also one of the victims. At the time, people in Albuquerque were already scared. There were rumors that someone was targeting women in a dangerous part of the city, known as a war zone. Police believe the murders stopped in 2005. By the time the graves were found in 2009, most of the physical evidence was gone. There were no gunshot wounds or serious injuries, so police thought the women may have been strangled. Investigators said it was one of the largest and most difficult crime scenes in New Mexico. They searched a wide area and collected whatever clues they could. One of the only leads was a plant tag found near one of the bodies. It came from a local landscaping company. That clue led police to Joseph Blea. He had a long history of picking up sex workers and had been convicted of several sexual assaults. Police looked through thousands of receipts to try to link them to the site, but there was not enough evidence. Blea denied any involvement and was never charged. Another possible suspect was Lorenzo Montoya. He lived near the burial site and had a history of violence. In 2006, he strangled a teenage sex worker in his trailer. Her boyfriend found out and shot Montoya to death. After Montoya died, the killing stopped. Some investigators believed he was the killer. One police chief said, "We lost Montoya, who I think was probably our best suspect, but no DNA or strong evidence ever connected him to the crime scene." Some experts think it may not have been just one killer. One theory says the murders could have involved more than one person. Maybe people tied to gangs or organized crime. All the victims knew the same people and lived in the same area. A criminologist suggested there may have been 3 people involved: someone in charge, someone who gave orders, and someone who did the killings. This theory is still debated today. As of now, the West Mesa bone collector has never been identified. In 2024, on the 15th anniversary of the discovery, police held a ceremony to honor the victims. They asked the public for tips and reminded people about the $100,000 reward. Investigators also hope that the new DNA laws might help solve the case or stop the killer. The site where the remains were found is now covered with crosses and small memorials. The case is still open, and the killer could still be on the loose. In April 1992, a man began targeting store workers along the I-70 highway in the Midwest. That is how he got the name, the I-70 Killer. His first victim was Robin Fulder, a 26-year-old woman working alone in a shoe store in Indianapolis. She was shot and killed. 3 days later, 2 more women, Patricia Majors and Patricia Smith, were found dead in a bridal shop in Wichita, Kansas. A witness arrived just after the crime and saw the killer. He was described as a thin white man with reddish or sandy-colored hair and a large forehead. Police created a sketch and later made an updated version showing what he might look like today. By early May, at least 6 people had been killed in 5 cities across Indiana, Missouri, and Kansas. Each crime took place in a small store near the highway. The victims were almost always women working alone. They were shot in the back of the head with a .22 caliber gun, usually in the afternoon or evening. Ballistic tests confirmed that the same rare gun was used in all 6 cases. It was an Emma Work ET-22 pistol. One victim, Michael McCown, was a 40-year-old man working in a ceramic shop. Police think he may have been mistaken for a woman from behind. In most cases, the killer left money behind, which made police think robbery was not the reason. FBI experts believe the killer was doing it for the thrill, not for cash. The last known victim was Sarah Blessing, killed in Missouri on May 7, 1992. After that, the killer disappeared. But in 1993 and 1994, 2 women were murdered and another was attacked in Texas in similar ways. These crimes happened along the I-35 highway, and the victims were also shot with a .22 caliber gun. However, it was a different gun, so police were not sure if it was the same person or a copycat. A major clue appeared in 2001. In Terre Haute, Indiana, a liquor store clerk named Billy Brossman was shot and killed. This time, the killer was caught on a security camera. The man looked like the sketch of the I-70 killer. He wore a wedding ring and spoke briefly during the video. Police got tips and tracked down a man from Missouri who had worked in retail and had been in Terre Haute that day. He admitted he had been there. Police collected his DNA, but did not match anything from the earlier cases. There was not enough evidence to arrest him. His name has never been made public. In 2021, police from all the cities involved reopened the case. They used modern tools like DNA databases in attempts to collect touch DNA from bullet casings. They also released a new age progressed sketch. They believe the man now would be in his late 50s or early 70s, and likely has a connection to Indianapolis. The I-70 killer has never been caught. Investigators believe he might still be alive. One detective said it is a case he wants to solve before retiring. The man who killed 6 people in just 1 month back in 1992 is still out there, and police have not given up. Between 1986 and 1989, 4 young couples were killed in Virginia's Tidewater region. Most of the victims were found in quiet, remote places, often near the Colonial Parkway. That's why the case became known as the Colonial Parkway murders. The first crime happened in October 1986. Kathy Thomas, 27, and her girlfriend Rebecca Dowski, 21, were found in Kathy's car, pushed off an embankment. Both had been strangled and had deep cuts to their necks. In September 1987, David Knobling, 20, and Robin Edwards, 14, were found shot near a wildlife area called Ragged Island. In April 1988, Keith Call, 20, and Cassandra Haley, 18, disappeared after a date. Keith's car was found parked near the Parkway, but their bodies were never recovered. The final case happened in September 1989, when Anna Maria Phelps, 21, and Daniel Lauer, 18, vanished while driving to Virginia. Their remains were found a month later in the woods near a highway rest stop. In each case, the couples were alone in quiet spots, often sitting in their cars. There were no signs of robbery or serious struggle. Some believe the killer may have pretended to be a police officer to get them to cooperate. For years, people thought the same person was behind all 4 cases. That changed in 2023. Using DNA evidence, police solved the 1987 murders of Knobling and Edwards. The DNA matched Alan Wade Wilmore Sr., a local fisherman who had died in 2017. His DNA also matched the 1989 killing of Teresa Lynn Howell, a woman who had not been linked to the Parkway case but was killed nearby during the same time. Police said that if Wilmer were still alive, he would have been charged. This was the first time one of the Parkway cases had been officially solved. But Wilmer's DNA was not found in the other 3 cases. That means the murders of Thomas and Dowski, Colin Haley, and Phelps and Lauer are still unsolved. Police now think the cases may involve different killers. Families like Kathy Thomas's brother, Bill Thomas, continue to fight for answers. They have said the investigation has been too slow, but they are not giving up. Over the years, many theories have come up. Some think the killer used a badge or uniform to trick the couples. Others believe more than one person may have been involved. Police have looked at several suspects, including a former deputy and a known serial killer, but no one has ever been arrested. Even though the crimes may not be connected, the details feel similar. Young couples, empty roads, and very little evidence. More than 35 years later, the Colonial Parkway murders are still discussed in books, documentaries, and podcasts. Without new DNA tools, Wilmer might never have been identified. Now, investigators hope that the same technology will help solve the rest. They are still testing saved evidence with newer methods. The people responsible could still be alive, and they could still be actively killing. In late 2005, women started turning up dead in Daytona Beach, Florida. Each had been shot and left in a hidden or remote place. The pattern made police think a serial killer was active. The first victim was Laqueta Gunther, 45. On December 26, 2005, she was found in a narrow alley near an area known for prostitution. She had been shot in the back of the head and left face down, wearing only socks. Less than 3 weeks later, on January 14, 2006, another woman named Julie Green, 34, was found in a ditch outside the city. She had been killed in the same way. Then on February 24th, a third woman, Iwana Patton, 35, was found in the woods. She too had been shot and left naked. All three women had struggled with addiction or had been involved in sex work around Ridgewood Avenue, a dangerous part of town. After Patton's murder, the killing stopped, but fear in the community stayed. Almost 2 years passed, and in January 2008, another body was found. This time, it was Stacy Gage, a 30-year-old who had been missing for weeks. She had been shot and left behind a church. Police believed her murder was linked to the others. Police had DNA from some of the scenes and knew the killer used a .40 caliber handgun, but there was no match. The suspect seemed to disappear. Some believed he had moved away or been arrested for something else. For years, there were no answers. Then in 2016, another murder happened 200 miles south in Palm Beach County. A woman named Rachel Bay was shot and left nude. DNA from her body matched the DNA from the Daytona cases. Police finally had a real lead. They used genetic genealogy, a method that looks for relatives, through public DNA databases. In 2009, they identified the suspect as Robert Tyree Hayes, a 37-year-old man who had lived in Daytona Beach during the original killings. Back then, he was a student at Bethune-Cookman University. In 2006, police had even spoken to him because he had bought a gun similar to the one used, but they found nothing suspicious and let him go. After moving to South Florida, Hayes became connected to the 2016 murder. His DNA linked him to the earlier killings. He was arrested and charged with the murders of Gunther, Green, Patton, and Bay. Hayes went to trial in 2021 and 2022. In February 2022, a jury found him guilty of murdering Gunther, Green, and Patton. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Prosecutors had asked for the death penalty, but the jury chose life instead. Hayes still faces trial for the murder of Rachel Bay. As for Stacy Gage, he was never officially charged, but investigators strongly believe he killed her too. Between 2005 and 2009, the small towns of Jennings, Louisiana, became the center of a disturbing mystery. In just 4 years, 8 women were found dead in canals, swamps, and back roads around the town. All of them knew each other. They were between 17 and 30 years old. Most were involved in sex work and struggled with drug use. Several had also worked with police as informants, trading information to avoid charges. The first victim, Loretta Chasen Lewis, was found in May 2005 in a muddy canal. 1 month later, Ernestine Daniels Patterson was found in another nearby waterway. Over time, 6 more women were added to the list: Kristen Gary Lopez, Whitney Dubois, Laconia Muggy Brown, Crystal Benoit Zeno, Brittany Gary, and finally, Nicole Guillory, whose body was found in August 2009 near Interstate 10. Before her death, Nicole had told family she was scared and didn't think she would live much longer. By then, many believed a serial killer was behind the deaths. After the 7th body was found, the local sheriff announced that one person might be responsible. A task force was created and the FBI joined the cases, but the investigation quickly ran into problems. Evidence was mishandled more than once. In one case, a sheriff's investigator bought a truck from an inmate who was close to one of the victims. That truck may have been tied to her disappearance. The officer later sold it, possibly damaging key evidence. He was disciplined but kept his job. Over the years, several suspects were arrested, but no one was ever convicted. 2 men were charged with killing Patterson in 2005, but the case fell apart. In 2007, Frankie Richard, a local pimp who knew many of the victims, was arrested with his niece for one of the murders. That case also collapsed after witnesses changed their stories. Richard admitted he was close to many of the women and said he mourned them, but he denied hurting anyone. He was never charged and often spoke to the media about the case. Journalist Ethan Brown spent years investigating the deaths. In his book, Murder in the Bayou, he argued that the women were not killed by one person, but by several different people. He believed the truth involved deep corruption and that some of the killers may have been protected. Brown discovered that all 8 women had worked with police as informants. Some had even told their families they were afraid of the police. One victim, Muggy Brown, told her mother, "The police are responsible." Witnesses also named a Jennings officer, David Berry, as someone who picked up sex workers and took them to a private house. Some said the women were drugged there. Berry was only interviewed once and was never charged. He died in 2010. Other suspects include local drug dealers and men who had close ties to the victims. Brown and the others believe that more than one person was involved and that the crimes may have been covered up by people in power. As of today, the case remains unsolved. Police say it is still open, and an $85,000 reward is being offered for tips. But many believe law enforcement failed the victims. Some think there was never a single killer, just several predators who targeted the same group of vulnerable women and used the same method to hide their crimes. More than 10 years have passed since the last murder, and the killer is still out there. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more cases like these. See you next time.